And just 2 months after listing its first venture fund on the stock market, Robinhood is preparing to launch a second. The company has filed a confidential registration for RVII and a standard regulatory step that allows it to work through the approval process before making details public, unlike its first fund, which currently holds stakes in 10 late-stage companies: Airwallex, Boom, Databricks, 11 Labs, Mercor, and OpenAI, Ara, Ramp, Revolut, and Stripe. RVII will cast a wider net, investing in growth stage and early stage startup. It's a meaningful distinction, and given that early stage startups are younger and carry more risk, but also offer the potential for greater returns. And Britain's Prime Minister Keir Starmer is fighting to keep his job after his appeal for a reset, following disastrous results in last week's local elections, was met with scores of lawmakers in his governing Labour Party calling for him to quit. And in a speech to the Labour faithful in London, Starmer said he took responsibility for the heavy losses in councils across England and in elections for the Welsh and Scottish parliaments, but he vowed to stay in his job, and saying a change in leadership would plunge Britain into the chaos that flourished under the Conservative Party, which ousted 2 leaders in the 2 years before Starmer took office. And General Motors has laid off more than 10% of its IT department, or about 600 salaried employees, in a deliberate skills swap, clearing out workers whose expertise no longer fits and making room for some with AI-focused backgrounds. GM confirmed to TechCrunch that it had conducted layoffs. They were first reported by Bloomberg News. And South African President Cyril Ramaphosa says he will legally challenge a report that has paved the way for Parliament to consider impeachment proceedings against him over the theft of large sums of cash from his private farm. A Constitution Court ruling last week found that Parliament acted unconstitutionally when it voted against establishing an impeachment inquiry against Ramaphosa regarding the Fala report in 2022. And hundreds of Hamas militants accused of committing war crimes during their October 2023 attack could face the death penalty after Israel late Monday approved the creation of a special military tribunal to prosecute their cases. The legislation received broad backing from both Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's governing coalition and much of the opposition, passing with 93 votes in favour and 0 against. And a new wave of gang violence in Haiti's capital has displaced hundreds of people and caused the aid group Médecins Sans Frontières, MSF, to suspend work in local hospitals. The group, also known as Doctors Without Borders, said on Monday that about 800 residents had sought refuge from fighting inside its hospital in the Site Soleil neighborhood of Port-au-Prince before operations were suspended. And at long last, Android and iPhone users will be able to send each other end-to-end encrypted text messages. On Monday, and end-to-end encrypted messaging is starting to roll out in beta for conversations between iPhone and Android users running the most up-to-date software. And end-to-end encrypted E2E messaging is an important privacy feature that makes users far less susceptible to surveillance by hackers, governments, or the companies that make these communication platforms. And when these messages are sent between devices, they're encrypted while in transit, making it near impossible for anyone else to intercept and read the message. But until now, messages sent between iPhone and Android devices could not be end-to-end encrypted E2EE, even though iMessage has been encrypted since its launch in 2011, and Android users have been able to communicate among themselves via E2E since 2021. And Spanish teenage superstar Lamine Yamal has garnered praise from football fans for expressing solidarity with Palestine. During Barcelona's celebrations for winning the La Liga title, in several clips widely shared online Monday, the 18-year-old could be seen waving a Palestinian flag from inside an open-top bus to cheers from jubilant crowds. And the European Union and United Kingdom have imposed sanctions on Russian institutions and officials accused of systematically deporting and indoctrinating Ukrainian children. The EU announced measures against 23 state institutions and individuals on Monday. Britain simultaneously unveiled a broader package targeting 84 people and entities, roughly a third of them linked to what was described as Russia's campaign to forcibly deport and militarize Ukrainian children. And United States President Donald Trump said he will cut the 18-cent federal tax on petrol to offset surging prices that have continued to soar after his comments that the US ceasefire with Iran is on life support. On Monday, Trump said he would suspend the petrol tax, but did not specify an end date. And the European Union has agreed to impose sanctions on Israeli settlers and leading Hamas figures. Consensus was reached on the sanctions packages at a meeting of member states' foreign ministers on Monday. The measures targeting Israeli settlers over violence against Palestinians in the West Bank were long awaited, having been blocked by the self-styled illiberal government of Hungary's former Premier Viktor Orban. And Donald Trump says he will raise the issue of US arms sales to Taiwan during his meeting with Chinese President Xi Jinping later this week. Trump reiterated his belief that a conflict with China over the status of Taiwan was unlikely in the near future. And South Africa's parliament is set to establish an impeachment committee to probe allegations against President Cyril Ramaphosa in the Farmgate scandal. The lower house of parliament said on Monday that its speaker will set up the body to investigate. The move was ordered by the country's highest court last week as it revived impeachment proceedings against Ramaphosa. And scientists are warning of an increased risk of collisions between whales and ships off South Africa's southwestern coast, caused by changing shipping routes due to conflicts in the Middle East. The rerouting of ships around South Africa since 2023, when Houthi rebels hijacked a British-owned vessel near Yemen, has substantially increased the chances of vessels striking the mammals in the region, they say.
Medics had to restrain Palestinian journalist Ali al-Samoudi while tending to his bullet wound when the body of his colleague Shireen Abu Akleh arrived at Ibn Sina Hospital in the occupied West Bank. I managed to look and see Shireen lying next to me. I couldn't believe the situation. I started screaming and I tried to get to her. They didn't let me, said al-Samoudi as he recounted to Al Jazeera the events of May 11, 2022.
And for football fans, the majority of the build-up to the FIFA World Cup has centred on disappointment and shock more than excitement and delight. Faced with wide-ranging issues from expensive match tickets to logistical concerns, fans have directed their criticism towards the sport's global governing body and local organisers in the three host nations, Canada, Mexico and the United States.
The British government has imposed sanctions on an Iranian-linked network accused of plotting attacks in the UK and elsewhere. The Foreign Office has issued travel bans, asset freezes and director disqualification orders to 9 people and 3 entities linked to Iranian-backed hostile activity. Attock. A shepherd laid down his life while averting a suicide attack on the Manko security post in Attock's Jand area on Monday, potentially saving dozens of lives. District Police Officer Sardar Marwan Khan confirmed, talking to the media. DPO Marwan said the incident occurred near a key security post on the Punjab-Khyber Pakhtunkhwa border, located in Tehsil Jand, some 70 kilometres from Attock city.
And 18 Americans evacuated from a cruise ship after possible exposure to hantavirus are being closely monitored by health officials as authorities maintain the risk to the public remains very, very low. Officials say one passenger aboard the Dutch vessel MV Hondius has tested positive for the Andes virus, a rare type of hantavirus, while another is showing mild symptoms. And Donald Trump says the ceasefire with Iran is on life support after dismissing Tehran's response to a US peace proposal as stupid. The US president's swift rejection of Iran's response on Sunday has fueled concerns that the 10-week-old conflict will drag on and continue to paralyze shipping through the Strait of Hormuz. Referring to the latest proposal, Trump said the ceasefire is the weakest right now after reading that piece of garbage they sent us.
It's about time that the microdrama trend has gone mainstream. As microdrama apps like Reel Short and Drama Box quietly rake in billions, Peacock announced on Monday that it's launching 2 unscripted Bravo microdramas, which will stream on its app. These are vertical video series with episodes around 60 to 90 seconds, are designed for a quick TikTok-like viewing experience. That 5-year-old European military drone startup Helsing is reportedly close to raising a new $1.2 billion round at about an $18 billion valuation. The round is expected to be led by Dragoneer and co-led by existing Helsing investor Lightspeed. That, the Financial Times reported. Helsing last raised just under a year ago in June 2025 in a deal that was led by billionaire Spotify founder Daniel Ek. That was a $600 million investment at an estimated $12 billion valuation, $14 billion USD. So this new round is a step up.
And acting on the directives of Director General LDA Tahir Farouk, the Lahore Development Authority's LDA Town Planning Wing intensified commercial buildings in LDA-controlled areas across the city. During multiple enforcement operations conducted in various localities, LDA teams sealed a total of 203 properties over illegal commercial use and non-payment of commercialization fees. And the government of Azad Jammu and Kashmir, AJK, has decided to expand its mineral sector by reopening the issuant leases under a new policy facilitation framework seen by pro-Pakistani. The move follows a key decision of the AJK cabinet aimed at unlocking the region's mineral potential and promoting export-oriented mining projects. And President Donald Trump on Monday said the ceasefire in the Middle East war was on life support, rejecting Iran's latest counter-offer, which it said had included demands for the release of frozen assets and the end of a US blockade. The president's reaction to Iran's position, itself a response to a US proposal, sent oil prices soaring and dashed hopes that a deal could be quickly negotiated to reopen the Strait of Hormuz to commercial shipping.
The walls of the medical room are charred black and the door appears to have melted half away in the flames. 10 days after an apparent petrol bomb was hurled through the synagogue window in the middle of the night, the smell of smoke still catches in the back of the throat. When Rabbi Yehuda Black returned the morning after the attack on what he calls his gem of a synagogue, with its wall of stained glass windows and a ceiling carved with stars of David, he said he was overwhelmed with emotion.